Welcome everybody to NVMe and NVMe over Fabrics Plugfest number 17. These Plugfest events will be taking place the weeks of June 6th and June 13, 2022. Here's a look at today's agenda. I do want everyone to know if you have a question at any time, please put them in the Q&A and we will address your question at the end of the presentation. My name is Kerry Munson. I have been working at the UNH Interoperability for 13 years. I've been involved with the NVMe technology for going on 10. And I'm joined today by Carter Snay.
Hello, everybody. I've been working here half the time, 5 years, started here as a student, and now I'm working with testing and customer relations. Introduction,
a little bit about the IOL. The IOL has been working with the NVMe Express organization since 2012. We've collaborated with the NVM Express to manage the integrators list based on the test program, which we write test plans for that come out of the Interop and Compliance Committee. We will be hosting Plugfest 17 as a virtual event. This decision was made based on the number of registrations that have come in so far have been favoring virtual. So those of you that did register for in-person, hopefully we can do that for you next time. All right, integrators list. The integrators list has over 300 NVMe SSDs listed. This list has been growing since our first Plugfest 2013. The NVMe over Fabrics integrators list is nearing 100 products. We are looking forward to adding a few more when we launch 17.0 in a couple of weeks. For the NVMe integrators list products, we will be listing PCIe drives, host platforms, and switches. For the NVMe over Fabrics integrators list, we'll be accepting initiators, targets, and switches for 4 different transports, so RoCE, TCP, fiber channel, and iWarp. When you register, please indicate which transport your product supports so that we can be sure to include that on the schedule.
Hi, everybody. So I'll be going over the requirements for the integrators list for both Fabrics and PCIe. So first of all, the first things that need to be completed are passing all the NVMe conformance tests in both PC-Edition and LaCroix Edition for version 17. You might ask why both? The reason is there are tests that are split across both platforms right now. So in PC-Edition, which has a majority of the tests, that is what we are primarily developing for. And then there are some left over for LaCroix Edition that we have to make sure that we were unable to implement in our PC-Edition using NVMe-CLI. Additionally to that conformance testing, we also need to ensure the interoperability tests pass. And this is just with different traffic testing on different hosts with multiple operating systems, CPUs, and host platforms, as well as boot testing, making sure we can install operating systems of Linux and Windows based. And then for the applicable form factors, we will also be testing hot plug. Additionally, there's also NVMe-MI testing, which is using the Teledyne LaCroix analyzers and exercisers if it is supported. If it's not supported, it's not a requirement. And then for PCIe hosts, it's kind of just the inverse of that, where as if you're a NVMe SSD, you need to pass with 5 different hosts. If you're a host platform, you need to pass with 5 different SSDs. The over Fabrics integrators list requirements is relatively the same, except for the fact that we need to build our own little fabric between 2 switches. And if it's an initiator, it needs to pass with 2 different targets, and vice versa. If it is a target, passing with 2 different initiators through 2 switches. The OF interoperability tests consist of more traffic tests for varying lengths of time, consist of power downs of both the initiator and the target, as well as link pulls to make sure that when they are plugged back in and powered back on, everything comes back as expected. There's both the regular base NVMe tests that need to be passed, as well as over fabrics conformance tests, which are more specific to the actual activity of a fabrics connection, like connecting and disconnecting. So this integrated list information is what we will be requiring ahead of time before we are able to actually post these devices to the integrators list. It's pretty similar for both NVMe-oF and regular NVMe. So we will need the product type, product name from a version, product type, the NVMe specifications that are supported, as well as the command set specs supported for both if they are applicable. The form factor and PCIe gen are also there for informational purposes. All right, and I'll be going over our test plan updates for test plan 17. So before we jump too far into that, just going over the test plan development process. So we have 2 major test plan releases every year on a 6-month period. All the test plans are developed in conjunction with the Interop and Compliance Committee through NVMe. And they're all the updates are voted on and ratified with the NVMe Technical Work Group and the NVMe Board of Directors. So all new tests come in initially as FYI. That way we don't introduce any brand new bugs or any potential new issues that will block certification. This way it gives us time to vet the tests to make sure they're working properly, and it gives the industry time to run against the tests with new features and make sure that we're all kind of on the same page and working together properly. Otherwise, we might be causing issues if certain FYI tests are blocking, or new tests are blocking certification. All right, so test plan 17, this is the first time we're going with the 2.0 refactoring. So there's been a lot of questions and buzz about what is actually going on. Is it 2.0 compliant? What's going on that side? So really the main thing that has changed for us is that the test plans have been broken out into transport, base, and IO command set test plans to reciprocate the changes from the technical specification side. So there's really only 20 new tests coming out for 17.08 that are covering new 2.0 features. The reason for that is because we put most effort towards making sure that everything is broken out to have a platform to build on for the next iteration of test plans. Let's see. So really the other thing that has changed is we pulled PCIe out of the regular what was just NVMe conformance because it is now transport based and different. What has not changed is the previously included tests. So you're wondering maybe what if I have a 1.4 drive or 1.3 or whatever it might be, those still apply. There are still version checks in the test specifically for those to make sure that it is still applicable and valid for those specifications. The interoperability test plans have not changed for over fabrics and PCIe, and now there has the NVMe-MI test plan. So just to help a little bit more on what has actually changed and what has moved around for the refactoring. So NVMe Conformance is broken out into the NVMe over PCIe transport, and then also just the base and IO command set conformance. And right now we are only running with ZNS command set and the NVM command set. So you can see that it's kind of broken out there into just having this 2 different ones from the base and IO. Admin and the command set are combined into one just because every device needs to run both admin and an additional IO command set for our testing. For the NVMe over fabrics conformance, we broke apart the RDMA transport and the TCP transport. The main difference there, which I'll talk about in this deck, is that there is an additional group in the TCP transport, which is TCP binding, that's not applicable to RDMA. So that's why they're separated out by the transport. Like I mentioned before, new tests that are coming in are not mandatory until they've been vetted. So with this new test that has been added, or with this, there have been more and more tests that have been vetted and run, and we found more passing results. So here are the tests that have changed from FYI to mandatory, and this is only in the NVM command set that is actually changed. The other test plans are the same. So from this subset of tests, there are different tests from the identify group, from the set get feature, from the create and delete IO submission and completion queue tests. The security send and receive tests are now mandatory, and a couple of data set management tests and NVM read tests are now mandatory. So tests that did not have FYI to mandatory changes are all listed out here. So it's the MI, TCP conformance, ZNS conformance, PCIe conformance, PCI interop, which is just what the previous regular NVMe interop was called, the RDMA TCP interop, and the RDMA conformance. So none of these have had FYI to mandatory changes in this cycle. As I mentioned before, we did pull out the PCIe tests from the original NVMe Conformance version 16. So there is a whole new test plan, but it is the same test that was there previously. There's been no status changes here as far as FYI to mandatory. You can just see here that it is just been refactored and renamed into a new test case, just into its own new test plan, but no actual test changes have occurred there. And like I said before on the slide with the visual, there is the NVMe over RDMA transport conformance, which is just what the over fabrics conformance was from version 16, now called NVMe RDMA transport conformance version 17, which is just what was groups 1 through 3. And now groups 1 through 4 have been moved into the TCP transport because they have the additional TCP binding tests in group 4. So I mentioned that there were 20 new tests being added into this cycle. Here they are listed out. So for TP 40105A, that is the IO command set independent identify controller data structure technical proposal. For 4083, there is the persistent event context number TP, and then 4046A, which is the command group control interface TP. As far as ZNS or NVMe-MI conformance test plans, there were no new TPs introduced at this time, so that is staying the same. And like I said before, interoperability test plan has only changed in name only, but no actual new tests have been going in or TPs addressed. Moving on to more of just the testing that will be going over the PCIe interop systems. Here is what is listed out on our website, so you can find it there as well. Just a variety of operating systems, host platforms, and processors that we'll be running against for just standard PCIe interoperability testing. I will say the newest one we have here is the Gigabyte X570, which is a Gen 4 system, but also we will be building a PCIe Gen 5 system this week, which will be running a Asus Z690 motherboard platform. All right, moving on then to talking about the Interact test tools. So first of all, maybe some of you are familiar, maybe some of you are not, on how you actually can attain the test tool and test before you come to the lab. So the first step is to get a membership at this point, which you can reach out to NVMe Lab to get that, or to our website. Once you have a membership purchased, then you need to sign the license agreement to make sure we can deliver you the license. Once you have that, then you download the software with the license and you put the license in the necessary folder as dictated by the installation guide. And then you are basically ready to run. It should be relatively simple to launch. There should not be too many issues there. The LaCroix edition is run in Teledyne LaCroix's Link Expert software, which requires an ATS file from us that contains all the scripts that they encrypt themselves. So something else I want to mention on this slide that's a little bit different for the GUI that compared to what it used to be for the past 16 versions is you notice in the left pane, there is NVM conformance ZNS, PCIe transport, and NVMe over fabrics. So first of all, the PCIe transport conformance is new to this package. And also the concept that there is NVMe over fabrics and PCIe transport in the same tool is new to this cycle, or new to 17.0. You can see in the right of this that there's a license all in one. I will say that all the licenses are packaged into one specific file, so you don't have to worry about tracking down and copying over 4 different licenses depending on how many you have, but it's all just based on a flagged set in the license. So with that, we'll go to the next slide. Yeah, with that, there is a new license, like I was just saying. So some of you might have tried to run with the license you already had and found you got an error message saying a new license is required. And a lot of people have reached out and we've delivered many new licenses and they are backwards compatible. So once you have this new license, it'll be all you need to run the previous versions. And as we saw before, there is PCIe tests and over fabrics tests in the same GUI. So that could be a little risky potentially if you're trying to run a PCIe test and you accidentally select a TCP test or a fabrics test. The tool itself will check to make sure that you're running against the correct transport, and it will block the test from occurring if you accidentally make the wrong choice or selecting the wrong controller by chance. More about just Interact itself. So there are 2 major releases every 6 months, co-aligning with the 2 major test plan releases. That these reflect the changes and new tests that have been added every so often through different technical proposals. In between the 2 major releases, there are minor releases. So you'll see that this most recent one is 17A. In a few weeks, we'll be releasing 17B. And all these really are doing is addressing bug fixes that have been reported throughout the cycle, as well as adding in new tests that might not have had the chance to be added before we release the first version of 17. So we'll be implementing more tests between each variant. It's also really important to make sure that you are downloading the latest version to make sure you're getting the most up-to-date bug fixes. That way you're not accidentally reporting something that has been addressed and making everybody get confused and lose time. More about the tool specifically. So the test procedures are developed in conjunction with the Interop and Compliance Committee, the ICC. The actual tests, after being the procedures being written, are developed by us, the IOL data center industry, using agile method of programming. And our main workforce at the university here is student run. So we will write the tests, give it to the students, and then with staff oversight, have scrum meetings and give them experience in trying to write the new tests and going over potential bug fixes or new tests we need to write together. Some of the dependencies for this current release is NVMe-CLI 1.14, these Python, Bash tests, Java, and C for reading and writing registers. All right, so that was basically the status of what we have right now, and here's what we are going to be doing up in the future. So there's ZNS over Fabrics, which there's an asterisk there because we are trying to gather more information on what people want us to do. So we've had some interest on ZNS over Fabrics, and if you are looking to be doing this, please let us know because we want to make sure we are addressing the needs of everyone here. There's the Ubuntu 20.04 update, which has been long awaited. We are trying to update to the next version, next LTS of Ubuntu, because this will also give us access to newer kernels and newer NVMe-CLI, which gives us more control over new commands that are coming out and new command sets. So you can see that this is for summer, since for us it is more of a bigger overtaking that we want to make sure we have while the students are here full time as well. And then in spring 2023, there's the key value command set. That is the next command set that we are eyeing to start implementing into our test tool. Again, if there are other command sets that you want us to be paying attention to or implement ahead of time, please let us know. But as of right now, this is what our roadmap is looking like for the next command set to implement. Okay, now looking even further ahead to test plan 18, TP 2014, here are some of the TPs we want to make sure that are addressed for the next iteration. So we want to address TPs that were missed from 2013 that we didn't get a chance to introduce because of the refactoring efforts. So these are just listed out here on this slide. We also want to make sure we are addressing ECNs for 2.0. So in 2.0B, there's ECNs for 101 and 102. And moving on from that, we'll need to make sure we get 103, 104, and 106 in there as well. And then further below are the TPs that have been proposed for TP 2014. And again, if there are others, these are set for now, but let us know what you want to be coming up next after that. Make sure we're addressing everybody's needs. Continuing on with that, there is NVMe-MI work for us to do as well. So here are the ECNs and TPs we are going to be doing to get up to 1.1. And then from beyond that, we are going to be addressing ones that bring us to 1.2. So we are in line with the 2.0 specifications. As a reminder, these tests, the procedures are written by the IOL, but the actual tests development is done by Teledyne LaCroix and is run from the Teledyne LaCroix Link Expert software currently. And my last main content slides here is just talking about support issues or bug fixes and all those kinds of things. So generally speaking, now we get most of our bug reports via email, and there's kind of a back and forth between maybe myself or a student or someone else who's working with us, going over what the issue is, trying to get logs, trying to whittle down what the main root cause of the issue is. And once we kind of reach that point of the conversation, we can assign a ticket and put it in our Jira bug tracking system, where we can then use source control to edit it and put it into our next release. This is important for us to have it as a ticket. That way we can post the ticket number in the release notes, so you, the customer, can see when a fix has been going in. You can kind of relate it back to yourself and see, oh, yep, this ticket that I addressed or I put in a few weeks ago has been put into this next release, as they said it would. We always try to make sure that we can say when it will be put into a release. So if it happens to be by chance a bug reported 2 weeks before the next release, it might not make it into the very next release because we've already started QA testing. We'll say, okay, it might not be in 17B, but it'll be part of 17C, something along those lines. And this is the same thing that I was saying before, where there's A, B, and C, where they contain the bug fixes and new tests that have not yet been implemented. Currently, the best way that these issues can be reported is using the portal through My IOL. When you report a bug through My IOL, it goes directly to our Jira sprint board, as well as we receive an email. So it's kind of a double whammy on notification right there. So I'd recommend doing that if you have access to My IOL. We are also looking into using Jira Service Management to communicate more effectively with customer issues. That way, it'll be kind of an online portal where you'll be able to see the student who's assigned to this issue, the progress of the issue, if it's in progress, if it's been resolved. It'll be a little more transparent as far as where and what's actually going on. It'll be easier for everybody to keep track of what's going on. And that is really all I have to say for these sections. I just want to say thank you to all of our partners for the support they've given us over the past few years. And I hope we continue working well together into the future. So thank you.
All right, thank you, Carter. I'm going to touch upon shipping and logistics. Then we'll move on to the summary and then answer questions that have been coming in at the end. Just another reminder, if you do have a question, please put it in the Q&A. The registration is available on our website. This is the link to both the NVMe over Fabrics and NVMe PCIe Plugfest. There is a limit of 2 unique products. If you have a third or fourth product, it will be placed on a waiting list. If there is available space, we will add it to the schedule. Again, this event is going to be virtual, so no attendees will be permitted at this Plugfest event. Registration for both events will close May 27th. We're able to push it pretty close to the end because it is virtual. So just as long as you have the products delivered to us by the Friday before the event, there won't be an issue. PCIe shipping and logistics. Again, please make sure that the product arrives on time so that we can get the testing completed and reports sent out to you in a timely manner. Ship at least 2 samples of each of your products so that we're able to complete all the testing. If you are able to ship additional products, that's helpful because we're able to run more tests in parallel. And then if your device requires a password or login or additional configuration instructions, please provide that to us ahead of time. And then if there's anything else we need to know that's unique about your product, let us know just so that when we do get testing started, we're able to jump right in. Any adapters, extender cards that are needed to run your device, make sure you include that in the shipment as well. Just in case we don't have extras available on hand, we want to be sure that we get your testing done as soon as possible. And then if you're able to include a return shipping label, that will help us get your device sent back to you quickly. For fabric shipping and logistics, pretty much everything is the same as PCIe. No large builds at this Plugfest event. Hopefully in the November Plugfest, we'll be able to do that. Any essential cabling that is needed to run your device, include that as well. And then a packing list. And in fact, for PCIe as well, anything that you include in the shipment, just give us a list so that we are able to double check it when we're sending everything back. We don't want to miss something and, you know, not get that back to you in time. And if we do run into any problems, we can set up a Zoom call, send emails, send logs, and we'll work with you guys if you're in different time zones. So we'll be pretty flexible for this event. And if you need a remote access to your product, we can work with you on that. For the fabrics testing, it may take longer than the 1 to 2 weeks, just because we don't have your support on in our lab to help us out. So just be aware. Logistics continued. I've included our shipping address, 21 Medbury Road, Suite 100 in Durham, New Hampshire. Put the attention to NVMe Lab, or you can either put Kerry Munson or Carter Snay, and it will all go to the right place. Testing will not begin until the Monday of the event, just to make it fair to everyone so that everyone has an equal opportunity to begin their testing at the same time. We will make the test schedule after the registration closes, and reports will be provided by June 30th. At that time, if your device qualifies for the integrators list, let us know and we will add the product to the list. Be prepared. Download the latest test tools and run them. If you need access and you don't have it, you may contact me. If you need a license agreement signed, I can create that and send it off to you, or I can get you the link to our box site, which our software can be downloaded from. If you need a license, I can also provide that to you as well. And now our summary. A lot of this information will be announced on the ICC calls, which occur every other Tuesday at 2:00 p.m. Eastern. Pretty much this time, but next Tuesday on the odd Tuesday. It's 11 a.m. Pacific. And Ryan Holmquist from Intel chairs the Interop and Compliance Committee. Here's our contact information. Kerry.Munson at IOL.UNH.edu, and Carter is csnay at IOL.UNH.edu. We did have some questions that came in, so I will take this opportunity to answer them. The first question is, will these slides be shared after the webinar? Yes, this presentation is being recorded, so we will be able to send out the recording to everyone that registered, and we will also be able to share the slides as well. A lot of the information that we did share might take a little longer to look at versus the speed in which we went through this. Let's see. Another question, my product supports version 1.4. Can that be tested at the Plugfest? Yes, it can. Your product doesn't have to support 2.0 features to be tested. All right.
Kerry, there's also a test about the Interact version 17 license. Carter, I don't know if you talked briefly about that.
Yeah, so let's see, I'm trying to find a question. Where is that? I'm not seeing the question. Can you say the question, Tim?
It was basically asking about Interact version 17 license.
Yeah, so there is a new license required for version 17, just based on how the new tool is packaged together. It's just, you can get it if you have a membership. It's as simple as emailing NVMe Lab or Kerry Munson or myself, and we can get the new license shipped out to you as soon as possible. Yeah, you should already have access to it if you are a member at this point.
All right, and there was a question about the cost of the NVMe over Fabrics membership. We have a separate membership for Rocky and TCP and iWarp, separate from NVMe over Fiber Channel. Please contact me directly and I can get you a quote for that membership. Will the shipping cutoff date be the same for NVMe over Fabric since it's a week later? We can accept it a week later. However, because the Fabrics equipment will take a little more setup, we would like to get that in as early as possible. All right, and I believe that is all of our questions. Thank you all for joining us. If you have anything further, please feel free to contact us. Have a great day.